Bristol, Robbinsdale, and a small part of Golden Valley. She's a journalist and a nonprofit executive, an attorney, and broadcast political analyst. She is an alumna of the international cast of Up with People and a late blooming ballroom dancer. She's a graduate of St. Olaf College, Duke University Law School, and has an MBA from the University of St. Thomas. Ember's first book, Zero Chance of Passage, won the 2013 Grand Prize for Writer's Digest Self-Published Book Awards and was cited as an expert resource in a 2025 U.S. Supreme Court case. Her new book, The Dance of Resilience, Transforming Lives and Staying Vibrant Through Partnered Dance, was published just this January, and you will see copies of it back there. Ember and her husband, Michael Young, commute between their Hutchinson and Minneapolis homes with their miniature schnauzer, Maya. So please welcome Ember Reichgott Junge, who will talk to us about the value of dance in our lives.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. It's so good.
And I don't know if you can put this. Oh no, they didn't have a clip, so just hold it.
All right. I've got one on for your video or for your recording. And is there a microphone right here? All right. Excellent. Woo! Well, there we go. Just got to pull this guy out. There. Testing? All right. Perfect. Perfect. I am delighted to be here, and it's so much fun to hear all of you ahead of time and a little bit about your background and your favorite homes. So I thank you for the opportunity. Peggy, of course, invited me. Thank you, Peggy. We did serve together a number of years. I did represent an itty-bitty piece of Golden Valley, but a little bit more north of here. Yes, it was. And I do know Shep Harris, of course, who worked at the legislature. My sister lives here, Helene Johnson. She's part of Golden Valley Foundation, I think, something like that. And last but not least, all of those education people we saw. Brian Rossi was kind enough to bring in the cart with me, but also Joe Nathan and Khalik, you're going to hear from, which are going to be just great, I think, for you too. I really am glad to be here. And even if you don't dance, don't worry, because this book is really about resilience. And it's a way for dancers to get to that resilience. But the resilience that you hear about today and beyond that is really applicable to any area of your life. And the last few months have been rather difficult here in the Twin Cities. But what I look at is the resilience of our community as they rose up and helped one another, all of their neighbors, and that is a form of community resilience. And so that's all about what I'm going to talk about today. But if you notice that as there were protests and such, they looked to dance and music as a way of healing. Do you remember that? There was the post-protesters, and you're a musician as well, and you know the beauty and value of this in your life. That's what this is about. So I'm going to launch in, first of all, with my story. Oh, I should just mention one thing. Peggy, you mentioned that the publication date was January 13th, and that's we call the pub date. And so my husband said on the pub date, he said, "Congratulations, Ember, you have finally reached puberty." You didn't like that, huh? All right, so I'm going to keep going on here. There are some Minnesota connections here. Some of you may have watched Dancing with the Stars. Anybody watch that here at all? Yep, a few folks. You'll notice Alan Burstyn over here, Louis Van Amstel over there, are both pros on the program. They have endorsed and are in the book. But the Burstyn family is from Minnesota, so there is a connection. Their studio is in Southdale, and that's where Alan is actually based, along with his brother and sister-in-law, Jean and Elena. And then Louis Van Amstel coaches here every so often. So for those of you familiar with Dancing with the Stars, they are have been honoring me by endorsing the book. But I'm going to start out with my story, and my story is just pretty simple. As Peggy knows, when I was in the Senate, I was elected very young at the age of 29. I succeeded Skip Humphrey, who then became Attorney General. So I got into that seat at the age of 29. And as a young woman in the 80s, in 82, 83, we didn't really know how to be a woman in this very professional environment. And some of the women here probably remember how we were wearing those little bow ties, the ties at the neck and things like that. And so I was very, I don't know how to say it, very stiff, very, I just had a wall. You just couldn't get through it. I had to be very professional all the time, and I had to be perfect, and I couldn't make any mistakes. And so I just decided that I just needed to do something because I didn't have a relationship. And so I walked into a dance studio at the age of 35 with just one purpose in mind, and that was to find a husband. Well, I did, but he doesn't dance a step. It's okay. Dance changed me, and it totally helped me to become this person who was more authentic, who could make a mistake and laugh, didn't have to be perfect, and it made a big difference for me. There was one other thing in my life too, and that was my mother was a Arthur Murray dance instructor, and she intimidated me. She was a jitterbug queen, and so it took me to age 35 to go into there because I didn't want to, I didn't think I could meet her expectations. So then I had this first showcase here. That was my very first dance instructor, and that's my mama over there. And I just remember my first showcase a year later, I'm doing a waltz, and my mom is in the audience, and I'm so nervous. And I just remember going, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I'm looking over my arm to my mother, and I'm stretching, and her tears are just coming down her face. And I was so excited. And I finished it up, and I bowed, and I ran to her, and tears were coming down my face, and we hugged. And it was so wonderful. It was a breakthrough for me because I finally knew that I met her expectations. So that's what kind of got me through into the next stage. And then I met this guy. I met this guy right here. And that's Nathan Daniels. He lives in Loring Park and still does. He changed my life. He was the one who could control a woman who was always in charge, right, Peggy? We were always in charge, we legislators, right? And he made me get out of my comfort zone because he wanted me to wear little costumes like that. And senators do not wear costumes like that. But he really allowed me to be myself, to be my authentic self, to love myself, and to eventually love my husband when he came into my life. And there he is. My husband and I made a deal when we married in 93, and that was I wouldn't teach him how to dance, and he wouldn't teach me how to golf. And we've kept to that all 32 years. Meanwhile, this guy, Nathan, still lives in Loring Park, is now one of 4 African-American male ballroom dance judges in the entire country. And he still coaches me and others, but I love Nathan too because of what he did for me. So that's just one story, but it transforms the lives of many, many people. And I'll just give you a couple of thoughts here. This is my social dance partner. He is going to be 80 next month. 80. Dennis. He had multiple myeloma around the age of 74. And when we went to a social dance after he was trying to recover, I'll never forget, Barbara Peterson Burwell, Miss USA, is a member of the club. She came up and she said, let's dance. And he danced, and he had his little cancer cap on, okay? And he says, oh, I'm so hot. And she said to him, well, why don't you take off your cap? And he said, I'd be so embarrassed. I have peach fuzz head. And she said, you're among friends. You're among friends. You can take it off. He took off the hat, and what he told me in the book was that it was the beginning of his emotional recovery. He had just been so under that cap, so much a cancer face that he could be himself again. And so we did a dance, a showcase dance right there, showing that change, that transformation to that. And this dance for him was so therapeutic. It was about the power of healing of dance because you can share your story in a way that way that you can never share anywhere else. You wonder why that guy's there. Okay. There's a guy in Duluth named Jim Carter. And this was someone who you never would have thought was a dancer. At the age of 14, he ran away from home. He never went to high school. His dad was an alcoholic, abused his mom. I mean, it was just everything was not good. And he did finally get into his father's business, which was very much a plutonium recovery plant, which is like extremely hazardous. And one day he came to his friend's farm to get some meat. And he said, hey, that guy over there, that bull over there, he's okay. The farmer said, just fine, no problem. Not so. The bull gored his thigh, broke his femoral artery. The blood spurted up. Most doctors say you don't recover from that. They got him into the ambulance. They got him there. And he got to the hospital and was told by the doctors they never expected him to walk again. So he did all kinds of therapy. He used a cattle prod to try to shock it so that his brain and his body would connect, because the nerves was not connected. He could not connect the brain to the leg anymore. And then guess what? His therapist suggested he go to the dance studio. And he did. And he started there again with a waltz box. And so he went 1, and then his teacher had to lift his leg up 2, 3. 1. I think I did something here. 2. Oh, I'm out of. Harry, oh, what did I do? Okay. 1, 2, 3. What did I do? Did the battery? I think you can probably hear me. I'll just use my outside voice. Okay. All right. Right in the middle of my story. Oh my goodness. Okay. And so she was trying to lift his leg, and he did these waltz boxes over and over, sometimes up to 10 hours a day. And then 4 years later, with that resilience, that's him. He was on the dance floor. He has minimal pain today. He's back to his business. And he actually won Best Newcomer Male in the competition. Folks, it can be for anyone, is what I'm trying to say here. Dr. Paul Cederberg is an orthopedic surgeon. He did a beautiful routine, Viennese waltz. Very rare for a male to go out by himself and start dancing for 45 seconds, but he did, and it was just beautiful. And then he reached down and he lifted his pants leg and put the Velcro up here. And what did we see? His prosthesis. He's been dancing with prosthesis, and he's an advanced dancer. You can do that. And a Marine came up to him after that and said, can I hug you? And he said, well, you can hug me if you really want to. And the Marine hugged him and he said, you just showed me that if something happens to me, there's still things I can do. Veterans have used dance for PTSD. I dance with a lieutenant colonel who's a female who uses this to overcome PTSD. Lisa Davis is out of Des Moines, Iowa. She both leads and follows. And when she leads, she feels the wall. Why? Because she's been blind since the age of 18. And she dances, leads and follows. She is from Korea, South Korea. Very much a career woman in South Korea, came over here because she had been communicating with an American and decided to come over and marry him. They had 2 lovely children. Things went fine until they didn't, until the marriage became abusive. She left the marriage years later, just very unconfident, beaten down emotionally. And she started to dance because a friend took her to a studio. And the title of her chapter, her story is, I can stand straight both inside and outside. Inside meaning self-confidence, right? Outside meaning posture. We were talking about that at our table, right? Posture. This is a huge help for posture. So many of us are over the computer when we are working or even retired. So what's holding you back? All right. You know, life happens. She was a dance instructor, but unfortunately, she had to divorce her husband. The child was ill. She lost the studio. She became an accountant, which was a better career for her, but she sat down a lot, so she gained a little bit of weight. But she is, when she came back to dance years later, one of the most elegant dancers on the dance floor. What I'm trying to say is body shape and size does not matter. You can be elegant and you can be a wonderful dancer. No partner, no problem. We talked about that too. Sometimes you're grieving, sometimes you have lost a spouse. You just don't have a partner, you don't want to dance. You don't need one. My husband doesn't dance, right? You can always dance with your teacher if you take lessons. But here's the thing here. Dr. John Carlson was the head of surgery in Hastings, at a Hastings hospital. And he and the head of nurses over there on the far side there had a daughter or son getting married, and they all wanted to dance at the wedding with their spouses. So they did. But after they were done, Dr. Carlson and the nurse decided they were the only two that really wanted to dance, so they continued. And the spouses said, no problem, go for it. Well, so they went on and danced. And one day, Dr. Carlson was called before the board of trustees of the hospital saying, Dr. Carlson, I understand you and the chief of nurses are dancing together and you're married to other spouses. And he said, yeah, what do you think we're doing? We're dancing. And so he won out, the surgery guy won out, he had a lot of leverage. But my point is that you can dance with others and spouses that can give their blessing. But here on this side is Marianne in the red. Marianne eventually became John's partner because the head of nurses had an injury. And where they met was in a group class. And if you are ever in a situation where you want to meet people, the safest place you can meet people is a group dance class, because you're learning something together and you switch partners. There's many, usually equal gender. You switch partners. You spend a minute learning the rumba with one and then another minute with another. And, and it's much easier and less awkward than going out for dinner and a date, let's say. So this is a great way to meet people, both for dance partners or even life partners. Age, no worries. I told you that my partner is now going to be 80. Angela Calabria is doing Argentine tango here at the age of 93. I compete now, and my area is seniors. I'm 72, so I compete 70, 75. One of the most competitive areas in dance is 70 to 80, believe it or not. And we also have an 80 plus, where my partner Dennis is going to be competing very shortly. You are never too old to dance, nor are you ever too young. So these are fifth graders, and there's global dancing classrooms all over the world. We had it here for a while. I had a nonprofit, and then we kind of sold it to someone else. But these are fifth graders, are not just learning to dance, they're learning respect, teamwork, and elegance, right? That's what that's about. Dance is breaking barriers. Yes. Now, Peggy and I were in the legislature when the Human Rights Bill was passed, I think. Were you there then? To prohibit discrimination against gays and lesbians, right? And so the legislature in our state approved that in 1993. But the dance community did not allow same-sex dancing on the dance floor for competitions until 2019. The stories in the book of those that really made that happen are the most resilient, I think, in the book. But they did it. And now what you have in many studios are mothers dancing with daughters. You have people dancing who really just want to learn the parts so they can, the other parts, so they can be a better dancer. You all know Suni Lee. She's from St. Paul. Her clan grandparents, Chu and Chua Lee. Chua Lee is the first Hmong American elected official in our country. She got elected to the school board in St. Paul at the age of 23. And then she came from Laos as a refugee and saw dance here in the US and decided she wanted to do that. So she and her husband started to dance. Well, they didn't just start to dance, they brought it to the whole Hmong American society. That was not even a thing in Laos, partner dance. They created it here, and it's now around the country. And then Suni Lee, of course, the Olympic medalist in 2021, when she won the gold medal for all-around gymnastics, that was the number one thing, the number one word researched on the internet that year, that day, was Hmong. Hmong. The world wanted to know what this Hmong community was. And that was her. So Suni Lee was on Dancing with the Stars. This is the part you're probably the most interested in. You probably know Dr. Murphy, the Surgeon General, declared an epidemic of loneliness a few years ago. Well, loneliness and social isolation increase the risk for premature death up to 30%, 29%, as much as 15 cigarettes a day being smoked. And this one, lack of social connection, is associated with a 29% increased risk of heart disease and 32% increased risk of stroke. So just the fact that you're in a community to dance already lowers your risk of premature death. Now this one I can't figure out, but it's true. 2019 shows that dancing also reduces the risk of colon cancer, breast cancer, and cardiovascular disease. I don't think there's any physicians here, but it's what they found. However, this is really supported, and that is one of the most powerful and overlooked tools for brain health is dance. Frequent partner dance provides the greatest reduction of risk of any other exercise. We're talking 76% reduction of risk of dementia. That's pretty incredible, pretty incredible. And here's the comparison. Reading's pretty good. Crossword puzzles, that's what my husband does. That's pretty good, 47% reduction. But look at that, tennis, golf, swimming, biking, walking, 0% reduction of dementia. Why is that? Because the partner dance, the frequent partner dance, is about responding to your partner and making new neural pathways back here, because he's doing something different, you're responding, and it's never the same. It's not like a line dance where you can kind of do the same thing and make the same neural pathway. This is really important because so many, I think the risk of getting dementia is like 42% after the age of 65. So there are classes now for dementia patients and also for Parkinson's, because this improves mobility, balance, and independence for those living with Parkinson's. There is a couple here where she is a ballet teacher. He is a Parkinson's patient. He had symptoms that registered a 9 on the impairment scale, and after 4 or 5 years of working together, they went down to a 4 on the impairment scale. She now has done some virtual kinds of exercises at the Parkinson's Struthers Center. There is a dance for PD or Parkinson's in Duluth. I want to bring it here to the Twin Cities. It's based in New York City, Dance for Parkinson's. There's 430 global sites. There is, by the way, the last thing I'll mention is just simply that my goal here is to bring this into the healthcare system, paid by insurance and otherwise. This gentleman is the doctor in California who's the co-founder of Social Prescribing USA. There's 40 sites around the country that do this. What is social prescribing? If I come to you and you are my doctor and I'm depressed, you say, yeah, I'll give you some pills and I'm going to prescribe 12 dance sessions for you paid by insurance. And then there's an arts pharmacy. Have you ever heard of an arts pharmacy? There is one. And that art pharmacy is going to make sure that I dance those 12 sessions and lets the doctor know that I do that and hold you accountable. Social prescription is coming and could be a real addition to our system. Major insurance company here covers dance sessions in Medicare Advantage retiree portfolio for a major corporation. So it's already happening, but not enough. So my whole idea, and the reason I love speaking to Rotary groups like this, and I love Rotary, is the call to action to bring partner dance into the insured and public health care systems. And you can all do that. You can talk to your policymakers, your health providers, your insurance providers, and your arts organizations, because that's how it's going to happen. And I lay that out in the book. So that's my goal. I want to bring this prescription to others. If others you think might be interested in this, I'd love to. I've been talking to senior centers. Oh my gosh, they just really get that this is genuine, surprising information. But any other areas, let me know. If you want the data, I'll give you the PowerPoint. And finally, that would be me. My book is there. It's $20 if you are interested in that. Now, of course, I'll sign it for you. This is me doing a piece solo from My Fair Lady, where I'm Eliza Doolittle and my instructor is Henry Higgins. And my hope is that after you hear this, that maybe you will want to dance all night. Thank you. He has done a couple of dances, but it's funny. He's just kind of like this, and he's just not going to learn really. He'll just kind of huggy dance. It's okay with me. I'm okay with the huggy dance. So no, and but he's a great golfer. Yes.
So this won't surprise any of these people, but my concern has always been that. So can you really teach a person to?
Well, first of all, many women are leading now with either female partners or they are, yeah, usually with female partners, particularly in a group class if there are not enough men. But let me just say this. I wanted to lead too. I was a senator, for God's sakes, right? So Nathan, my instructor, knew how to deal with that and how to take control from me and to say, I'm in charge, and can you just, do this? And it takes a talented instructor, but that is one of the things instructors are very skilled at doing. They get a lot of strong women.
Well, thank you so much for presenting to us today as a token of our appreciation.
Oh.
Note cards of scenes of Golden Valley for you to write to all of your.
Well, thank you so much, Alicia, and I've really appreciated it. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and you'll now join me. We'll do our
rise.
thank you, Paul. For the four-way test, is everybody think or do?
Is it true?
Second.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Fourth.
Will be beneficial to all concerned?
And fifth.
That's fun. That's
fun. Hey! All right, thank you for having me. I'm here.